welcome to this sunny, glorious Wakefield today, going indoor for a bit to spend some time with me and also welcome people online as well. So today I'm going to share with you folks about inclusive UX, and that's for arts and culture events from learning disability and or autism's perspectives. So first of all, just say who we are. So I'm Joyce, I'm the UX researcher. So my background actually is I'm a theatre director. So in the past 6 months or something, then I've been on a project and then looking at the UX of people with learning disabilities in arts and culture events. And then John is my supervisor on this piece of work. And the structure of today, we're going to spend about 45-50 minutes together. So I will share with you my findings, and then at the end we can have a chat. And then, so maybe, I don't know how the Zoom people will do it, but then we'll probably, if you type in your conversation or comments, then we would address that at the end as well. Yeah. So the part one, first of all, is the context of the research. So what am I doing? Why am I doing this? How do I do it, the research method, and the scope, because UX is everything and anything. I can't spend 5 weeks talking to you about this, so let's tell you about the scope. Part two is the user journey and UX, so that is my findings and some analysis. Last part is broader UX of LDNA, so that's more than arts and culture events. This is very interesting bit that I didn't start wanting to do that as well, but then it just through the findings, I got a lot more information from my participants. And so it will be about their incentives, their barriers, and recommendations. All right, so here we go. The part one is context of my research. So I'm examining the user experiences, UX, in arts and culture events from the perspective of adults with learning disabilities and or autism, and they're adults. First of all is, if you are old enough, then you must have remembered the film called The Pirates of the Caribbean, and which is some pirates. One of the pirates, they were saying that one of the pirate code is that for anyone that's fall behind is left behind, we'll just leave them. And then in the arts and culture, I think we are better than pirates. We don't want to follow this pirate code. It is anybody, don't want to get anybody to just not having the opportunity to access or understanding it. And I really, I like this book called Invisible Women. Have you heard of this book? This is about data collection. So in that book, we were saying that if you don't have the data, if you don't understand a certain group, their experience, when you design it, you probably wouldn't think about them. The classic example is seat belts. So seat belts, they are probably designed for people who are taller than me, built broader than me, and they are Caucasian men a lot of the times, so that it doesn't protect me the best. And then I don't want the future design of a UX to be the same, not really thinking about catering the need and the incentive of some particular group of people. So that is part of why it propelled me to start this project. The second thing is to add to the growing field and body of literature. And it is the third wave of the HCI research. So it's not only about how the computer make sense for humans. It's not just the human and the screen. It's also about the human and your living context, and how that living, your holistic experience, your context will then affect your experience using that digital technology. And which is really in time and handy for the good practice guidelines that's starting to develop in all fields. Some of you, even if you're not in technology field or artistic arts and humanities, is ISO standards. It's just for commercial products, international standards. Then is the ISO 30071 Part 1, that is about the digital products guidelines. It has talked about the accessibility. And WCAG 3.0, that document has been published in December 2024. Currently, the UK government is following WCAG 2.2. And then the difference between 2.2 and 3.0 is that 3.0, it has included the accessibility, the requirement, the needs of people with cognitive and learning disabilities. That is a new requirement that we know that has been left behind previously, now that we are starting to do it. And all in is another thing that's more arts and culture specific, and that is a 4 nations initiative, Arts Council England, Creative Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. They also have, it's a online platform that's a one-stop shop for people to have all their access requirements and booking their tickets on that all-in platform, so that you don't have to go on individual websites or their events pages to find out all the access the access guidelines and then telling the individual companies your own access requirement. So it's trying to, I think they just soft launch it middle of this year. It's not a full thing yet. But then you could see that these things, the trend, it is coming, it is happening. And then this research is really informing into what is needed right now. So this is a bit of the context. And I also want to share with you about some ideology. So this is from disability studies. That is the medical model versus social model of disability. So in this comic, you see somebody, a wheelchair user at the bottom of some stairs. And at the bottom of some stairs, there is a sign saying, "Way in, everyone welcome." But then clearly that person not very happy. Well, it is not usable for, even though you say that you're welcome, but it is not possible. So on the left-hand side, there is a speech bubble saying that her impairment is the problem. They should cure her or give her prosthetics. And that speech bubble represents the medical model of disability. The ideology is that the problem lies with the person. You have to cure that person. The change lies on, the responsibility lies with the person. But on the other side, the speech bubble said the stairs are the problem. They should build a ramp. And that speech bubble represents the concept of the social model of disability. So the problem is not the person. The problem is how we build the environment. The environment is human-made, so we could, if we consider the need and incentive, or need and incentive first of anybody, and in this comic is the person using wheelchair, then you wouldn't build a stairs in the first place. So thinking about how we design the built environment to meet people's needs. So this is another context, which is the social model or the medical model of disability. And then I am more thinking about the social model as we are designing the environment. How do we don't put barrier in it in the first place? Right. So with that context in mind, I went into different research groups and I asked them this question: can I use it? So it's just a really big umbrella question. Simple. Can I use it? And then what is it? Is the digital technology that they come across when they attend any arts and culture activities and events. And underneath it is a very good and conversation starter, and they start to tell me a lot of stuff. The research method, first of all, is some data collection. So it'll be creative workshops. It is a good job that I have a background in theatre directing and I run creative workshops. And then focus group, smaller group discussions and interviews, semi-structured interviews, sit down with somebody chatting. And then it is really important that in my data collection research method, because of the groups of people, sometimes they don't, I have devised a survey, but then I decided to not use the survey. The reason being is, I think it's really important to develop a relationship, and then it's really direct communication with the users, with the people, participants, instead of person and paper and boxes, and that is too cold and clinical, and that wouldn't work for my specific research. And that's why that is my choice of doing these creative workshops and focus group and interviews. And the data set that I've collected, of course, there'll be some speech, people tell me stuff, tell me stories, and dramatic scenes. So will be small scenes or even freeze frames. It's like taking a photograph, like telling stories. Creative audio responses, somatic or embodied responses. So that, which means that it could be like some people do a dance for me, interactive dance, and then there is a conversation starter. Or there are places where I ask people to put their body in relation to the space, that kind of using spatial kind of responses to it, and also clay models. It is important to offer different kinds of ways to respond, because people may not choose to be speech, conversation, may not be the way that people respond the best or the choice of sharing. So it is having a creative background and using different kind of research method that really unlock a lot of the stories and experiences, user experiences that they may not have told people in a conversation setting. So that the analysis, it is qualitative. Use a grounded approach to analyze it, so that I didn't come in to say, do you find it hard? Do you like TikTok? It is about people, can I use it? Ask them, can you use it? They tell me that. And then I just spot the patterns and trends, and that is a grounded approach. And I do a thematic analysis to get the findings that I'm going to share with you in a minute. So that there are 93 participants returned with valid consent forms. It's a very rigorous ethics process. John can vouch for that. And then, so on its overwhelming number of participants identified with having a learning disability and autism is about 95% among those 93 participants. And then I went up and down the country to approach these participants: Newcastle, Leeds, Bradford, Cardiff, and London. Last time I presented, I realized that they're all on Premier League almost. Bradford just got onto like a better upper league. So for they are all adults. I've talked about that before. And then the way I choose to approach my participant groups, they are, some of them engage with the arts and culture as recreational. Some of them are in training, vocational training, like a structured training. And some of them are professional, working in the arts and culture industry already. And then so for this one, I choose to have these categories because it is about the arts and culture industry instead of an age range or geographical location or the economic, socio-economical background. And then so I just want to see in the different engagement with the arts, what will their UX be like? So this is this is the scope, the audience journey. So how far and wide am I talking about it in the UX? So the experience is not only about when you see the show, it's not just that 1 hour of engagement, or it's not just about when you get there. It's even started with when you first discover the show. It is when that story the experience start to accumulate in an audience mind. So that's how I started the scope. It is discover how you first know about the event, because the relationship starting to build at that point. And then next one is commit, when you decided to attend the event. So classically, it will be buying the ticket or registering to come to the event, making a commitment. And then engage on the day of the event, before and during it. What do you do during that day? Again, it's not just when you're at the event. It is the whole journey, your audience journey. And then afterwards is the feedback session, after you've been to the event until you stop thinking about it. So that is the whole journey. And then yeah, we can talk about that, and then they actually loop back a little bit as well. That journey doesn't just stop there, or maybe it will for some people drop off from the feedback session. So that is the scope, how wide, and I'm looking at in this UX in the audience journey. All right, so that is the context. So actually, what have I found? Part 2, that's the user journey and the UX. So first of all, I asked them, what do you use? What are the different kind of technologies or devices that you use? Overwhelmingly, smartphone, almost all of them have a smartphone. And for people who have a smartphone, almost all of them uses WhatsApp. WhatsApp, YouTube, Facebook, and Zoom, over half of them engage with these these platforms very frequently. And then next is the gaming. And then down there, I just like to point out a little bit like Slack. It's got 9 volts in there as well. There is it's quite specific. It's project management online platform. This is because like one group of professionals, they use Slack. It started to adopt that during COVID time, and they just upskill themselves and learn to use it. And Zoom, the high take-up of Zoom was also is also from COVID time. Then there are lots of interesting stories that people share with me about like the take-up of Zoom during COVID. We can talk about that after in a social time. And then Live 360, you heard of Live 360? So that is it's like a location tracking app. They use it within the family. There are a couple of people who told me about that. That is about for safety. People know where they are when they're out and about, gaining their like personal independent travel, but then still linking up with there's a safety measure of that. So this is the thing. What do you use? Next then the discover part. There is nothing really surprising for us to find out. We realize that people use social media, adverts and posts. That's how they discover it. And suggestion from viewing or search history, the algorithm tell you what you might want to look at. And then WhatsApp messages in the group, friends, groups and chats, newsletters where they sign up for from companies, video trailers, venue, event, or company website that they go on to find information, Google general search, or what's on sites, fandom sites and channels, or that includes Discord as well. And this is the kind of data that we find out. And then interesting, we know that there are, some of them are passive receivers. Then you just be there and got targeted with adverts and things like that. They receive it passively. But more so, they are also active agents that they would go and seek what they want to look for, what they want to look at. There are a lot of digital interaction in here, and there wasn't much report of pain points in the discovery phase of this journey. But then there are a lot of people that say that actually the analog, the printed and traditional methods, that they use that in conjunction with the digital methods as well. It is still very in demand. Currently, or even after COVID, a lot of people thinking that, well, actually everything's just online. We save on printing, we save on all the distribution. So we just use all of them. But then for my research group, they actually are using 2 things in conjunction. The combination of digital and physical are directly in demand still. That is the discover stage. In the commitment stage, there's significant drop in digital engagement. It's really significant. I think it's about 90 to 80% drop in my research experience here. So, which means that that is the buying ticket and registering for it, which is in stark contrast with the market researches done in these recent years. So people are saying that I wouldn't know how to go about it, the website, the booking site. And And then somebody just near and said, well, they assume that everyone is tech savvy. They move everything online. Those are the quotations on it. Why is it like low engagement, low digital engagement on this site? We discovered that actually people do prefer cash sometimes. It is actually easier or more accessible for budgeting. It's physical money, you could see it deplete or see it how much they are rather than the like numbers. That goes go up and down, and then just need the numeracy skills for that. Prefer cash is easier and more accessible for budgeting. And then the next thing is really big. That is the absence or inadequate access information on websites when you try to go look for or book what you want to see. So that you can't find what you want, and then you end up wanting to find a number to call, and you couldn't call a person easily, and that's become a cycle. And then sometimes the information is even inaccurate. You can't trust the information that's online, and you end up still wanting to call. And then when you trust it, there was somebody, there is a story when somebody said it is, they went to, it's a city's big theatre, and then the show is a touring performance by a company from London, a very famous dance company who have participated in the Olympic Games. And then so there wasn't much access information, but then it is family friendly show, so that person went. But then before they went in the door, there is a A4 piece of paper printed out, stuck, saying that there's drop light, there's loud sound on it, but you're at the door already. And then, so it's just that little bit of inconsideration, it just really put that person off already. So that is a bit of, the mistrust there is not without reason. So, and also the next thing is the ticketing system viewed as insurmountably complicated. So the trick here is that it's viewed as insurmountably complicated. It's not UX designers' fault, I know you're improving, but it's also not their fault that they view that as insurmountable. This is a learned helplessness. In education settings, there is a concept called learned helplessness, that repeated failure that make people feel that, oh, next time I would fail anyway, and that it become a very limiting mindset. And how are we going to change that? That is something that needs changing. And also the other thing is the need for immediate troubleshoot and response. The word human touch has been repeatedly in different workshops around the country when I went to. The immediate troubleshoot is like when things go wrong, what do I do? It just, you might have chatbots or you might have FAQ, but then the immediate thing is, oh, I want to talk to somebody who are ready to answer my specific questions rather than me going around choose what the FAQ is. And then also that choosing the FAQ or reading all that words might be a barrier in itself already. So that is the problem being identified by this user group. There is a need for immediate troubleshoot and response and the human touch in it. All right, so this is from this low digital engagement in commitment stage, we get to the engage during the day. So during the day, find out that people use navigation app, weather app, the reminder, and WhatsApp to stay in touch with friends during their travels, and then they show reference or confirmation email, the QR code or e-ticket on the phone, and then take photos or videos during the event if it's allowed. So for this interaction, basically, two of them are about the tickets. Two of them are about what the event producers or organizers are intended for their UX journey. But people still have the different experiences and interactions that they initiated. A lot of them is actually about, it is about the communication and about a social event. It's about social participation. It's not about the economical transaction. We see that the users and producers' incentive actually is misaligned here. The users, they want social participation. Maybe producers, we create the UX journey for commercial transaction purposes. That is the misalignment. Or I asked them why that you don't use more of the ticketing and things like that. Say, oh, worry about internet connection at the venue. I couldn't load my ticket. Can't show it. It's very stressful. Or my phone may run out of battery. That is a real concern, and it's could be very solvable when you organize an event. You provide some charging stations, and that would just lift that barrier for some people. But the phone being workable is important. Like I pointed out the Live 360 earlier, because the staying in touch with friends and family and safety, knowing your way around, you have it on your phone. And so if your phone runs out of battery, you kind of suddenly, it's almost like a lifeline being snipped. So the phone being charged, it is actually an access need. Eligibility for concession tickets. This is a very interesting story that there are a few participants in different groups. They just say that, oh, I will actually bring my PIP letter to events, the personal independent payment letter, because I have concession tickets, and then I don't want to get challenged at the door. Like, why do you buy concession tickets? So that they feel the burden of proof on themselves to show that I am eligible on that. So this is one of the things why they don't just go on the ticketing website to do it. They want to talk to somebody with them, operators, saying that, well, I buy concession because I have this, and I will bring the letter on the day. This is a lot of the times, well, the first, the comic that I showed previously, that person with disability, that person uses a wheelchair. A lot of other disabilities is not visible. Invisible disabilities, and then who we're like, well, you don't look it. Why then is the burden of proof for these people? There's just small bits of barriers that just chip you away. Okay, so that is the engagement stage. On to the feedback. What have I found? So people really keen on sharing the experience on WhatsApp groups, fandom sites, post on social media, showing videos or photos to friends on their phone if they were allowed to take those photos. And then they want to find out more info about the show on social media. Write blog review, log their own experiences and reflection, and keep a log of attendance on personal device. So some of them you may not know has happened because, well, it is on their personal device, but then it's something that they really treasure and they value, and there's people that they do. And I asked them, anyone do feedback form? Anyone do survey? Anyone do questionnaires? Like if you're subsidized by the Arts Council England or like any subsidy, you want the data back. But then for everybody I ask of the 93 of them, zero has filled in any of these forms, so that you don't get those data from those people. But then they do have data, they do have thoughts, they do have experience that they treasure. It's just that we're not getting them. People really treasure their experience and they want to share, but they're not sharing in the way that these a lot of like producers or organizers are trying to capture. So we have a missed opportunity there. We could build the relationship with our audiences, with these users, just not through those feedback forms, questionnaires, and surveys. If we a little recap on the different journeys. So the top circles, the blue ones, they are the designed UX journey that we made, wanting the audience to go through. And the yellow ones are the lived experience, what they've actually done. The alignment is better in the beginning. discover stage. A lot of times, these jobs are done by the marketing department, marketing and PR. But then if you think about it as a designer of their journey, of the audience journey, think it holistically as a UX, you could see that actually your job actually doesn't finish at the marketing stage. And also as a director or a creator, you're focused not just during the engagement. It is about how you create that whole journey at a better alignment from the beginning till the end. In the discover stage, social media posts and ads and video trailers, word of mouth and printed materials, they're all using them. And then the commitment stage, ticketing platforms, yep, some, but some of them, most of them, still box office, either in person or over the phone. And the engage stage, digital tickets, we see because the engagement previously is low, so that is low as well. Even if they got the e-ticket, some people print out the e-ticket to show at them in person and buy physical tickets from the box office. And then in the feedback stage, we know that, well, surveys and forms, 0 participants fill that in. But then they do have the social media follows and responses. They will come back. You can track that. You know that. You will have it. But then there's a reflection and sharing with friends and within the community. That's something that we're missing. But that could be, if we capture all that reflection and sharing and the community, if you build the relationship with the community, it actually feeds you back into the word of mouth and the social media posts and sharing and trailers, because we find out that these people, apart from ads going to them as passive receivers, they're also active agents. They go seek their own interest and they will go tell their friends what is good to watch as well. There is an opportunity to have that section loop back into the discover. Well, you might have seen this one thing. You design it. It is like in a park. Well, there is a right-angled path, which is really neat and tidy. But then this person walking, actually, they just cut corners. That designed bit is there, but the user experience, they can still get to where they want. It's just not how you designed it. It's still fine. Like, people do they can get what they want. But if we are designers, researchers, is there something that we are missing? What is that path? What drive people towards that path? And then so it led us to the last part of our sharing is the broader UX of LDNA. So there's not just about the arts and culture events. So it is interesting that when I went into sessions and asked people about their arts and culture events and experiences, they tell me about everything and anything, about using the printer in the office, about the self-checkout machines in the supermarket, and about, all of it. And then a few people then say, well, actually, it is, when you come to talk to us about UX, we were worried, like, what is UX? Like, it sounds like technical. I'm not technical. Usually that's the first thing that people say, I'm not technical. I wouldn't understand it. But actually, it is about experience. I think it is the power of the interdisciplinary studies and research. Like, as a theater background, I'm a director and a dramaturg. So that's what I'm obsessed about, creating the experience for audiences. The language you use might be different. They are the users. But it's about human. We are no matter what job you are a person. The psychology, it could be shareable and similar. And then for these people, these participants, they were like, wow, now we know what you're on about. I do actually have a lot of stories to tell you. And also because nobody else has asked us this before. No one's asked. And then so I just get all the stories about like printers and self-checkouts and all of that. But it still points to what is their incentive, what do they want, what is the need, what problem they're trying to solve, and also what are the barriers that stop them from achieving their need. So that's why that's part 3, the broader UX of LDNA. So incentives and motivation. The biggest thing is the connectedness and communication. They want to stay connected. So that is the example of like on the day of the engagement. It's not just so much about showing the ticket. It is a social event, belong to a group, belong to a social participation and social event. Professional and education opportunities, they're the formal ones. So we know that after COVID, there's just a lot of our work pattern has changed, a lot of hybrid working, education has been online, quite a bit of it. Although for this particular group, a lot of it go back to the live and physical settings. But for professional, there are like auditions or production meetings or just self-tape and meeting your casting directors. A lot of them still remains online. So that is for them to access the professional and education opportunities. Research and learning. Now that is, some of them are for self-initiated research and learning. I think there are makers who want to say, for example, they still run a Zoom ball, like an online disco, so even after COVID, and then they want to find a backdrop, and then so it's just like going to do research and self-learning. And entertainment, yeah, just to go on YouTube, watch replay of some TV episodes, or gaming on the mobile apps, as well as different consoles. Mental health and well-being. Some people mention listening to white noise, or there is well-being app to keep them on track, or a bit of escapism from the real world situations. The sense of community and freedom of expression. There are times, a lot of these people saying that, there are quotes in this research saying that I get to see people not in my immediate circle that share a common interest as me. Someone else also subscribed to the engineering magazine that's about very specific about cars, that's in Canada, that I found somebody like me, like a tribe. Efficacy and awareness raising. Some people did say they make short form videos to teach Makaton on TikTok. Shopping as an experience, or even window shopping. And these are the quotes. Zoom was a lifesaver. You don't see many people like me online. That's about the representation and efficacy. And I can get away from the world, about mental health and well-being. And if you don't know anything, go on YouTube. That's the research and self-initiated learning. I like it when it's positive and they're doing things they will. That is the freedom of expression, seeing people being free expressing themselves. The last one, I get to see my son. And then seems to be people really like it. So one of the exercises is I asked them, it is a classic consultation activity. So in the empty room, I asked these people saying that, right, so that side of the room means yes, 100% yes. The other side of the room means 100% no. So I'm going to say a statement and then show me how are you going to agree with it. So first a question I asked them, I love technology. And you can visually see people running towards the I love technology, yes, that bit. Hence why there's like great aggravation. I love tech. A lot of people do that. Okay, so the next question I say is, or next statement is, I am confident with using technology. And visually, you start to see people start to go towards no, starting to doubt themselves as well. You can see how are they really love and want to use more, but their confidence doesn't match with the love that they want. What is stopping them? One of the classic story is when we were doing it is a short scene workshop. They're creating a scene. They were in pairs. There was one person pretending to be the computer, and the other person is a user. So that person is trying to buy a ticket on the computer. The computer then go, what are you doing, you donut? The person keep going. oh, that's the wrong day, you donut. It's like, oh, you got it wrong again, you donut. And then get the user just really tearing her hair out. It's like, I'm not a donut. And then storm off. So this little scene actually show us that this person is making to be felt really, really stupid, being made to feel to be a donut. She's like, I'm not a donut. But then why does all these experience, it's just all these pain points just make her feel there's a learned helplessness. I couldn't go on. So how are we going to stop that? And what are some barriers? Well, common barriers that I find, biggest ones is safeguarding. Safeguarding is a big word, and then, but underneath it, we could dissect what do we mean by safeguarding. The first thing is security and privacy. So the first thing, this is talking about, this is about scamming and being hacked. It actually happened to people. I think maybe some of you have experienced that as well. One of the participants reflected that it is her parent's friend told her parent, oh, your daughter sent me this link to buy some Ray-Ban glasses. I think it might be hacked. And then the participant was like, oh gosh, that is wrong, and I didn't do that. Will I be blamed? And then will I have consequences to be, will mistaken me to be a scammer as well? So that is the security and privacy concern. Cyberbullying is the speech bubble down there, trolls on Twitter, WhatsApp, bully on that too, that is a real thing. It's again, is reflected on every workshop. The mental health and addiction. So this one is about, there are a lot of incentive for that we maybe designers built in there to want people to carry on the engagement, the click rate. But then sometimes it's too much. I think there is one said, it is overwhelming and I can't stop using it. That's one of the speech bubble down there. And then there is also gambling, online gambling. There was one participant has reflected on that. They know that they want to stop, but then there's something psychologically is really hard. It's built in the app itself to really draw people in. And then the other bit of safeguarding is hate crime and theft. So this is a very special case and interesting story that I really want to share with you all here, is that it's not really about the technology, that is the context of the world that this person lives in. So the story goes like this. This person have a bus app and is all ready to go, get on the bus and scan, so that the bus is coming, and at that moment there was another person coming up to them and speak to them in a foreign language, in a language that they don't understand. So that when this person is trying to engage with the person in a foreign language, and also seeing the bus coming, there are multiple interactions that trying to deal with. And then as the bus are here, that person just grab the phone and run off, so that this person actually got mugged. And then after this person, after the person got mugged and the phone ran off, the bus arrived, the driver there was just like, well, there's nothing I could do. The bus drove off as well. And eventually this person, he just stood there, couldn't go to where he wants to go, phoneless, without the phone, couldn't ask for help in the place where he didn't want to be at that point. And then the consequence is that they say, I'm never going to use the phone app again, ever. So this story, this experience prevented him from using this app, this digital technology. But then it's not really your digital technology's fault. It is the context, the living environment. So that it is hate crime and theft that's actually part of the under the safeguarding concern. You might think that safeguarding is a big thing. Oh, we got safeguarding officers, but then you actually break it down. There are different interventions that we could do to help lift these barriers. All right, moving on from the safeguarding concerns, there are things that we can do as designers. There are some information and communication shortcomings. So example is, for example, it is written on one of speech bubbles, view partially blocked. When you try to book a ticket, sometimes it says that. But then actually, this participant is saying that, oh, I'm partially sighted. Which bit is blocked? How blocked is it? And then what do you actually mean? I need to know the specifics before I could decide whether I would want to buy a cheaper ticket for the partially blocked view. So it's just that bit. You thought like, oh, I've told you. But then actually, do people understand, really? Have you communicated? I've seen a very good example, which is Bradford Alhambra Theatre, where you choose that seat. You could see the perspective from that seat, how far it is, how close how blocked it is. So that is a good practice. We can go and have a look. The next is UI and interaction barriers. So this is, for example, the ticketing, the timeout, the countdown, that people make it stressed. And you say, oh, if I done it wrong, and you go back button, come back, I lost everything. Oh, and then I forgot my password. Oh, and then I need to make a new password. Oh, and then you can't use the same password. Yeah, it is very relatable. And also when you have somebody said it is a Bradford Theatre as the example, so you want to, it's just how you then click one thing. You see it, you're going to want to go to Alhambra. You click the show in the same page, but actually, after a while, you realize, oh, it takes you to St. George's Hall. It is the same company, like a corporate company, but it's not the same venue. So it makes sense from the designer's mind. So yes, umbrella thing, we are using the same website. But then for the user themselves, I'm wanting to go to Alhambra. And I saw a different show I want to see. And I'm going to go to that show. Oh, actually, you're a different venue. So that is like possibly UI or interaction, like what you actually understood from it. The next thing is the hardware and software. So that is, I think this is sometimes hardware itself, it could be a barrier where you need to keep updating your gear, and you have if your gear is out of date, you couldn't update the software because it doesn't support your device anymore, and then it becomes useless. These are the common barriers. So before we go into the last page, is the penultimate one. So I want to show you another comic. In this comic, this is a snowy scene where there is somebody having a shovel, somebody with power, and then underneath, that person will shovel behind some steps and a ramp, and underneath it there are some people waiting to get on top of the ramp or the steps. The person, wheelchair user, said, "Could you please shovel the ramp?" And the person with the shovel said, "All these other kids are waiting to use the stairs. When I get through shoveling them off, then I will clear the ramp for you." And then the wheelchair user said, "But if you shovel the ramp first, we can all get in." What we're talking about here is the access is not an afterthought. It's not something that built in afterwards to solve the problem of inaccessibility. It is built in from the beginning. If you think about, you need to let all these people in first, then it makes sense. You do the accessible, inclusive version first, and then everybody can access it. And then underneath it said, "Clearing a path for people with special needs, clear the path for everyone." This comic is from about 20 years ago, so that the language is outdated, but the concept remains the same. In different fields, in architecture, you may call this universal design. In UX, you design for all. In education and arts and culture, you may call it inclusive practice, but the concept still is the same. Where do we start? Access is not something at the end to solve the problem. If you think about it in the first place, it won't be a problem in the first place. So that when people say, oh, it's expensive to do access, well, because we're trying to fix things that are inaccessible in the first place. But if we have the opportunity to build something new, well, let's just start from the cost-effective way and start it in an accessible way. So at the end, there are some recommendations. Safeguarding and rebuilding trust. That is really something to lift that barrier that we found in the beginning, the big thing about safeguarding. Nuanced analysis and the diversity of choices. And interactiveness and human touch. This is the human touch is an interesting one. I think it is definitely outside the scope of this one. Now we know that like AI has been developing so quickly and chatbots and things like that. Oh, we can answer your questions. But then for this group of people, the nuance, the crux is that it's about care. It's about knowing that there is somebody thinking about your needs and caring before the question actually arises, before the problem actually arises. How do we demonstrate care from AI rather than just solving a problem? I think that could be a question for ethicists, psychologists, engineers, designers to think about. Error tolerance. So people are ambiguous and messy, and we make mistakes. And then the learned helplessness is coming from we have been making too much mistakes, and there's not much room for error. I know that probably in gaming, there is sometimes in some games they have invincible mode that you don't die, the avatar don't die. You just enjoy the play without worrying about that you can't jump over a cliff or like do something. So that's something that we can learn. As peer learning and democratization, this is something it is in a workshop where somebody is new to, we have like an Apple screen in that room. Somebody's new to that workshop, had no idea how to use that. But then there is another participant who have been in a session a few times, and that person know how to use the Apple screen. And then so it's just by peer demonstrating and trial and error, then they know that the new participant managed to do what is needed at the end. So it's just within that one workshop session, then they could learn from each other. And that is possible that we can break that chain of the learned helplessness. And I have written a conclusion at the very end that I can read to you. So the impact of UX reaches far beyond the functional, and it contributes to a holistic lived experience. Viewing it under the light of aesthetics, the experience conveyed by UX design encompasses the sight, sounds, tactile, and the somatic senses of ease or unease, warmth or cold, welcomed or expelled, achievement or failure. When a lot of the existing and better understood access features focus on the logistical and the more distal senses like the sight and sound, access for cognitive and learning disability highlight a need to pay attention to the somatic and holistic experience. Beyond usability, the success of UX is underpinned by the empathy with diverse human conditions and circumstances. A holistic understanding of experiences in both the physical and digital world gives designers the contextual knowledge needed in building a rich, engaging, and empathetic digital world, preserving the human touch that this group of participants has valued most of all. And this is all of it. Thank you.
Am I on the mic? Brilliant. So yeah, thanks very much, Joyce, for an amazing talk. So we've now got some time for questions. So if anyone in the room wants to ask questions, feel free to. I've got a mic here, and then people online can hear you. I'm just going to sneak over here. I'm just going to monitor the online questions as well. So if you want to ask questions and you're online, just stick it in the Q&A or in the chat, and we'll read them out. But I'll pass over to our first question.
Hello, everyone. My name is Adam, and it's not so much a question, but more of an idea. You mentioned how can AI be a bit more loving? So I'm a religious man, and if you implemented from religion, from Christianity, the love your neighbour as yourself, kind of value system, I think that would go a very long way within AI, because everyone is conditioned these days to think about themselves due to social media, and it's very self.
Yeah.
But if it's very outward focused, which the Bible has a strong value system for it, I think that could be a great idea. And that's an open topic. It's not so much a question, kind of an open idea.
Yeah, thank you, Adam. I think
You're very welcome.
it's a very good sharing that you said is love your neighbors as yourself. And then as opposed to your individualism, and it's just me and computer and all of that.
Yeah.
And then I think that's really resonate with some findings in this research is about community. How do you relate yourself, your experience with your other people, as well as the context, like the world that we live in. At the end, it's about the holistic lived experience is, relationship building with each other, how you care and love for each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very glad that like technology people talked about love and care. It's very important.
You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Lucy. Thank you very much. I think I'm going to follow on that because what really struck me in your presentation is that human touch, and it keeps coming back. You said through the research, and 93 sort of people said that human touch still is missing there. So there's clearly, the digital design is not aligned with the human touch, and I'm going to leave AI out of that. I don't want to talk about sort of human touch and AI. It's more as a designers, digital designers, how we can incorporate that human touch more clearly and sensibly and inclusively and bring that care to the forefront. I think that's really resonates with me, and that probably will stay with me after this presentation. So thank you. I don't know if you want to kind of elaborate a little bit more about that human touch in sort of buying a ticket and what can we do better?
Yeah, I don't really have much solution on that. Anderson, have you got you want to grab a mic? Do you want to respond to that?
I have a question.
You have a question?
I'll finish asking, but
We'll carry on.
Yeah. So thank you for your presentation. I am Anderson Nga Yu from the University of Dundee. I have two questions. So the first question is regarding your inclusion criteria of your participants. You mentioned that your community of focus are learning disability and autism. So can I ask, are your participants so are the like participant impairments only have learning disability and autism? And like, is there any participants with some other kind of symptoms or impairments other than learning disability and autism? Because from my experience of, so my community of focus is people with aphasia, which is communication and language impairment as a result of stroke. So my experience is like for people with aphasia, so in some cases they have some other kind of impairments like deep and hard of hearing, or some other kind of brain injuries like dementia, cerebral palsy, and so on. So my question will be, are the inclusion criteria of your communities exclusively learning disability and autism? So this is my first question.
Okay, I'll address that first. So that your first question is, are my participants exclusively learning disability and autism adults? So I'm so glad that you asked this question, because this is a very, very learning disability and autism people. It is so wide. The spectrum is so wide. There is no one size fit all. And then there is, so the simple answer to your question is no, it's not exclusive.
Oh, okay.
And then the other way of how then I define it is that these people are self-identify with having a learning disability and autism. And also it is this this wording as well. It's not neurodivergent. It's another word that's gaining popularity. But then for this group of people, I know that some of them don't identify with neurodivergent. It is the word disability. It's got a political oomph for some of them as well. And then I think it related back to the social model, because the disability could be sometimes separate from the impairment. Disability is how the environment disable somebody. And then, so that's why this is important to bring in that contextual understanding of the social model as well. And then the other practical thing that I think, I'm really glad you asked this question, the practical thing is because people were like, oh gosh, how, as a researcher, how do you reach these people? And then your ethics approval must be a nightmare. All of that. I just want to really say is really the importance of interdisciplinary and cross-sector. So I come from theatre background. I have 20 years of being a director, theatre director, and then 15 years in disability arts. So I just finished being an artistic director of a subsidized theatre company in Bradford. And then so actually I have been in the field, in the industry, knowing the stories, but there were no systematic study on these people's stories. And then I know anecdotally, I've heard about all of this, but then now I got this opportunity, got this chance to work with John and CoSTAR and AHRC funded to really, in the scientifically, just to really have the data and then process it and then tell the world, this is these things that is not surprising, but then it's just one first of its kind to start doing it, so that I know this is through different theatre companies or arts organizations that I know that artistic directors, I say, explain to them, this is the story. We know about this, but nobody actually studied it systematically. Now I got this opportunity, so that can I come into like, and also the other thing is about it is the trust of the participants. There are these companies, they already have regular sessions, they've already built up rapport within the group, and also the safeguarding and the support, learning creative support is already in place in that place. And the room that they go in that are regularly attended by these participants. So that's another access thing. Like for example, if you want to have a research workshop in Production Park here, you need to think of a lot of access. How do we explain to them this place? How do we ship people here? How do we even adapt this place to make sure that people feel comfortable in sharing their stories with me, with us? So that is the one thing. And also, think respond to something that Lucy mentioned, that is the care that we talked about. Is something care, labor, and care is invisible, that it has chronically been undervalued, but then somebody have to do the access, somebody have to do the care, even explaining UX to the participants and signing that form that university required. You can't just stick a form to people and then sign it. They won't do it. You won't get any data. You have to explain, and you have to, that's building the relationship. So that, and that care labor, that access support need to be shouldered by somebody, and that shoulder by somebody, you should not assume people do it for free. So that there are access budget in this research to pay for the support. And at the same time, there are one-to-one interviews that I talk to learning disabled freelancers working in the arts. So it is their time in being interviewed by me. They're sharing their expertise and lived experience, and I pay their time because they are freelance. There's an opportunity cost. They come, their expertise is not, shouldn't be freely just available as well. So if you're interested, even, there is actually it is a company called Unlimited. They are also based in Wakefield, and then they have a campaign called Nothing for Nothing. So learning disabled people or disabled people, a lot of the times being asked for their expertise, consultation on access and inclusion, and then it just assuming that, oh, I can ask for them for free, but think about this is the expertise, as consultation as well, and people have opportunity costs. So long answer to your question.
Yeah. Thanks for your answer. So my second question is much more specific to my first one. So it refers to a question like in the slides called "What do you use?" I'm not sure if you mind like going back to that slide. So what do you use? Yeah. So it's a slide with like the bar
like
chart.
the bar
Yeah.
chart.
Yeah. So so I've seen the word AI. So like, what kind of devices and context they are using like for AI? Because AI is a pretty broad term compared to like all other terms stated on the chart.
It is. So they talk about, one person talked about ChatGPT, one person talked about Gemini on their phone.
All right. Yeah. Thank you.
Can I follow on that one? Sorry, I know if you got online question, but what was interesting about this digital camera, only one person. I cannot believe this. I'm absolutely shocked because, I believe the reason why phones was texting and taking photos. And now it's actually overtaken by WhatsApp. And, before it was the camera. That's why we wanted, phone to take photos and text people. So I'm really interesting sort of, how's that connection with digital camera? And you were saying the participants taking photos and videos like we've been doing right now with your presentation during the performances and that they're sharing, but then only one person kind of said.
Oh yeah, so this is more like they're using their smartphone on that, yeah. And also the process of this one, I think as I trying to make it is really focus on the qualitative research of that, but I think it's just useful to see a pattern and trend, so that I wouldn't say this is 100% watertight survey of what is that. But then I think because it's reached like nearly 100 people, so there is a trend that I have spotted. And then also when somebody said digital camera, that person is the lone person. No one else said, oh, me too. No one did that. Yeah.